This is Ed Robinson of Kensington College. In the final video for Excel VBA, we'll consider automation and Windows APIs. In the next video for this, we'll consider file handling and add-ins. Automation is when we have one application controlling another. For example, Excel controlling Word, Excel controlling access and combinations thereof. Windows API when we access the Windows functions, for example keyboard functions, etc., which are directly Windows functions. File handling is when we talk about the way that data is stored on disk, usually. Add-ins is when we produce another workbook which contains all of the functionality of our programs, and we can have a separate workbook and call upon it at times. So we'll start off by talking about automation, and that is to say how Excel can control Word. Before that, we'll give you just a brief idea of making a Word macro. Recording a macro is much the same as we have when we from Excel. Recording a macro, we need to have the developer toolbar, and then we can record a macro, for example, and we'll say we'll use the keyboard. It's macro 9, take a note. They use the keyboard, and we can say Control D will run our macro. Notice that it's stored in the normal template. So interesting way of storing macros, which means it works from Word document to Word document, which is very convenient, which is a little bit of a shortcoming in Excel, I might say. So we can assign that to Control D and then close it, and then I can do some recording. For example, if I want to, I'll press Control B and Control U. That should make something underlined, bold and underlined, and then I can stop the macro recording. Then to run the macro, we could highlight some text and then just Control D, and it does both of those things, makes it bold and underlined. And I could take a look at that code, macros. I'll take a look at macros, and then it was macro 9 which I can edit and take a look at the code for that, and you can see it's quite understandable. And you can see this is the idea of Word VBA. I could also make a macro to do some typing for me, so if I record a macro, I won't bother giving it a name. I'll just look at the code, I think, and then just click OK, macro 10, and then I'll just type some text, whatever that might be, and then stop recording. And I'll just take a look at macro 10, the code to do that was simply selection type text equals mat. So we could make a mental note, or I could even copy this bit of text, but make a mental note of that code, selection type text, and then text, and that's equal to mat, because I'm going to try and run this from Excel. So from Excel, I'm going to try and access Word's code, VBA, and thereby place some text on a Word document from Excel. So I'll start off by putting a button on the screen, on the spreadsheet. Then what I need to do is to set a reference to Word. So if I go to Tools and then References, and I'll go down here to the Microsoft Word Object Library. It might be a different version, 14, just get the latest version of the Object Library. So we've set a reference to Word's. What we're doing here is to setting a reference to all of Word's programming features. And as I say, we say we access the Word object model. We also say that this process is automation, whereby we're accessing Word's code from Excel. It's called automation, and we say that Word exposes its objects to Excel. So we thereby set a reference. Next, we can put some code within our button to take a look at this. As a Word application, you'll notice that if I press the full stop after that point, it gives me all the properties and methods of the Word programming. That is to say, the Word object model. So we usually set a variable as a Word application. That represents Word itself. And then we say that window is visible so we can see it. And then here's a bit of Word VBA, documents add. Obviously that's going to add a new document. And we're going to put that text in there. Remember we saw that from Word selection, type text, mat. Then I'm going to, finally, whenever we create an object, we should always set it back to nothing as good coding practice. So finally we can go to our command button and click it, and it starts up Word with a new document and puts that text in there for us. So this is an example of how you can control Word from Excel. We could also control access database from Excel and so on. And we'll now discuss APIs, Application Programming Interface. That is to say, Word's programming. We can access Windows functions from VBA. For example, we might find the keyboard rate or a lot of hardware features we can access using the API. The username of the computer, which is a Windows feature, so we can access the username. In fact, that's what we're about to do. If you want to use our API, Windows API, we must declare it. And we need to declare that in the module. So we need to insert module. Now we need the Windows API declaration. So we need to go and find that. You could go try and find it on the net, for example, where we have a Win32. That's the name. You must note the name of that, Win32 API text. So I can find it here by the look of it, and then I'm looking for get username. So I need to make sure that it's this search can be case sensitive sometimes, so I'll just paste that down the bottom of the page. You can probably hardly see that. It says get username down here, but you can see it's cropped up here. So this is where I need to I'll just take that bit of text from there, which is the declaration, and I'll paste that inside my general declarations of the module. Now it's a little bit on the long side, so what I'll do, I'll put a space, underscore, enter, and just break that up into 2 lines. Get username is the name of the function that I'll be using to access the username of Windows. We have the declare statement here, which is like a dim, but it means we're declaring something, a function which is external to our Excel VBA. Then I could go to my command button, double click, and then go to the code and paste in this bit of code. It says we're declaring a string and dim I. Now I is a long. If we take the string, which is the username, and pass that to the get username function, then I rather fancy it to be a pizza. And this is the pizza shovel, if you like. So in the oven goes the pizza. It gets cooked and comes back out, and when it comes back out, it's got the username of the computer. In more technical everyday terms, this is passing by reference, and you know when you pass by reference that it can get changed if the function itself, which is the get username, if it changes it. It's a little bit strange using these because these Windows functions are actually originally C functions, and get by ref and by val are reversed. We have in VBA that the default is by ref, but in C and C++, for example, the default is by val, so it causes a little bit of trouble. But you can see there are restrictions as well. We need to actually pass a string of a fixed length to the function. This thing here is not the return, actually. That just tells us 0 or 1 whether the function has been successful or not. So what we want to do is message box the actual name of the user.